All right, well, we are not joined by John Poorman this week because he's a little bit under the weather, but we do have our high school insider, Joe McCann, join us, and he's going to talk a little 23-6A with us. Joe, talk to us about this district because they seem to have a plethora of experienced quarterbacks and coming back, probably more than any other of these Houston districts that we've talked about this year. But can you talk about some of those guys and how their experience may push them into the postseason?
Yeah, well, you may see like a better quarterback in a district here and a district there. But as far as from top to bottom, this may be the deepest quarterback district in the Houston area and maybe one of the best quarterback districts in the state, to be quite honest with you. A lot of these guys we actually are going to be seeing at our Houston Quarterback Challenge coming up this year. So we've got a good look at a few of these guys. Shadow Creek's probably got one of the more notable guys in Duke Butler, coach's son. So being a coach's son, you know he's always going to be well prepared and brings that experience. 1,900 yards, 29 touchdowns last year as he led this team to an undefeated run through district play. Pearland Dawson is not their starter. Colin Johnson is another guy we got in touch with at the QB Challenge. Over 2,000 yards passing, 17 touchdowns for the Eagles. Last year, they went 2 rounds deep in the postseason. Alif Taylor, maybe the best quarterback in the district, and Chase Jenkins, he had 2,500 yards passing last year, 24 touchdowns, and just 1 pick. And when you see the 1 pick, you wonder, well, is this a guy who just dinks and dunks and throws 5-yard passes? That's really not his style. He will take risks. He'll throw the ball deep, but it's calculated. So he's very smart with the ball, got great placement on his deep passes. He's not going to lose you games because he's not going to turn the ball over very much. So he's a guy who's going to win you a bunch of games. And then maybe an under-the-radar guy who I think you should watch out for this year, Strake Jesuits, Bryce Fusick. He's another guy we saw at the QB Challenge, looked good in that. 2,600 yards, 30 touchdowns for the Crusaders last year. They just missed the playoffs. And I think he's motivated to not only get his team in the playoffs, but really show what he has for college scouts this year. And so I think he's the guy who may be a little underrated statewide.
Absolutely. He was very impressive in that. I think he made it deeper than I expected in that QB Challenge for sure. Now, a team you didn't mention is Pearland, who's traditionally got a good squad, and they have a younger quarterback this year, so their quarterback may not be where they're looking for experience, but the story there is their new head coach. Isn't that right, Joe?
Yeah, BJ Gott comes over from Katy Pato. They won state championship last year, so he brings a ring with him, and Oilers fans are hoping he brings them rings. You know, they got to the state championship game in 2013. They actually haven't gotten past the area round of the playoffs since then, so I think Pearland wants to reassert themselves as one of the better teams in the Houston area and statewide, quite frankly, and they're hopeful that Gott is going to be the guy to get them there. We heard from him at a coaching school recently, and he said, you know, the talent is there to do that. It's really, but when you're a new head coach, a new team, the terms you hear are structure and culture, and that's kind of what the first year is often about for a first-year head coach. But that's not to say Pearland is going to be okay with losing this year while they grow. I mean, they want to grow and win this year, and I think they have the talent and the coach to do it.
Absolutely. There's 3 other teams we haven't mentioned, Alief Hastings, Alief Elsick, and Alvin. Who do you think of these last 3 teams has the best chance to push for a playoff spot in 2022, do you think?
Yeah, that's a tough question because I think, you know, depth-wise, there may be a bit of a drop-off between these 3 and some of the others we've talked about already. But if I'm going to pick one, I would watch out for Alvin just because they run that tricky off of that flex bone running offense, which isn't typical of what you're going to see in a lot of games. So they can catch you on the wrong day. Your defense is not ready for that. They could win some games they're not supposed to. So if they get an upset win here or there, that may be enough to challenge for that 4th playoff spot out of this district. So if I'm going to pick one of those 3 teams, I would say Alvin the Yellow Jackets might have a shot to make a run there.
Yeah, that flex bone is very confusing. It's confusing for our freelance shooters as well, as they end up getting all kinds of mixed up and faked out.
But you got to shoot from behind sometimes on them because you see who has the ball. So it's not what you normally do. Sometimes shooting from behind helps see who has the ball when you're shooting those games.
Absolutely. Thanks for the pointers. I'll pass that on to my guys. Hey, before I let you go, Joe, why don't we go ahead and get your preseason prediction for who you think is going to make it to the postseason out of this district?
Yeah, so I'm not going to overthink it. I'll have to say Shadow Creek's going to be the district champ. They were undefeated a year ago. They bring 13 starters back, including their starting quarterback. So there's no reason to think that they won't win the district again, as long as everyone stays healthy. So you have to consider them the favorite. Dawson and Pearland, I think that'll be the rivalry. That their game could determine who finished second in the district, quite frankly. I think they'll be battling second and third. And then for that fourth spot, it's probably going to be between Strake Jesuit and Taylor. Like I said, the Lions, they have an established quarterback in Jenkins, but really kind of inexperienced around him. And, I was praising Fusick earlier. I think he might get the job done, and I think they have maybe a little more depth around him. So I'm going to say Strake Jesuit ends up as the last team in.
Excellent. Very top-heavy district here, but it's always a competitive one. Next week, we're going to talk 24-6A. Maybe Joe will be back, but maybe John.
Hopefully you don't have to use me too much, man. I know the other guys know this district better than I do, but happy to fill in. This is going to be an exciting district for sure. And like you said, because of the quarterback play, I think this district will be a lot of fun to watch.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us, Joe, and we will talk to you or John next week.
See you, man.